So you think cash-based physical therapy is a direction for your professional career, and this is the next step. Well, I'm here to tell you that cash-based physical therapy is not for everyone, and if you don't have these 6 qualities, you will not survive in this specialty. Hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Welcome all new listeners and welcome back to those who have heard my content in the past. Before I go on to today's episode, I want to share what's new, what's the latest and greatest. Well, today, my son, for all the listeners out there, my son Zach has been pushing my buttons. Today, he told me, you ready for this? I went to give him a hug and a kiss right before he, went with his friends. And as I approached him, he pushed my hand away and pushed me away. And he says, "You just missed your opportunity, Dad." This is coming from an 8-year-old. And I said, where did you learn that? And my wife said, "You know what, Chris? You tell him that every night. If he doesn't behave properly, or if he asks for dessert a little bit late, we tell him, hey, you missed your opportunity. It's too late." So I got punched in the face today by my son with that. And so it hurt. That hurt in the stomach. It hurt so deep. My daughter's doing great. She just had a gymnastics competition coming up. So I'm excited for her. And my son Jacob is doing great. We are doing a Disney cruise coming up, and he is 90% potty trained. So all good things. Life is great. Back is doing stable, steady. That's all I want in life. Just keep it at bay. My wife and I are super excited about this cruise. Just time away, decompress, and just have a great time with the kids. So on to today's episode. Why are we talking about if cash-based physical therapy is for everyone? Well, it's not for everyone. And I've mentored a lot of people who struggled with this. They will consult with me. They'll ask me, what direction am I going? And in the end, when I take a step back as a mentor, my job is to help people see a clearer road, a clearer path. And after having these discussions, I realized there's 6 qualities that I would say that, really successful physical therapists have, and not everybody has them. And so for those of you who are struggling, if you're a cash-based physical therapist, and if you're struggling, I would try and hone in on some of these things. And if you're considering cash-based physical therapy, I would see if you qualify for this checklist. Do you have all these things, and are you going to be successful? And most people think, well, I'm good at my clinical skill. I don't understand why I can't be good in cash-based physical therapy. So before you do that, the 6 qualities I'm going to cover today have nothing to do with skills. And because those could always be trained. Anybody can be trained on the clinical skill of physical therapy, but it's the intangibles and everything else outside of that. So if you were interested in physical therapy, this is going to be a good qualification checklist. If you're in the thick of it and you're wondering what else you need to hone in personally, what are you not seeing? These are going to be fantastic for you. And if you weren't successful in cash, this may be some of the reasons. So we'll go through that, and I think it's very important for you to understand, what it is that you're missing, what it is that you're not seeing. And so the first thing I'd say is the clinician who is overly organized and prepared. Now, organization comes second to preparation. That's just a little different. Now, you could be organized, but you can lack the preparation. And I think the people who are on Saturday and Sunday reviewing what lies ahead for the week, how many clients they have ahead of time, how many patients, who's going to be in strength conditioning, how's your workflow going to go? You're going to go from a physical therapy appointment to a post-surgical to a strength and conditioning to a youth athlete in the evening for performance training, whatever that is. You're going to find your schedule in there. But if you're showing up to work and you're super organized when you get to work, but you did no preparation, you're going to get punched in the face. And what I mean by that is I think there's a lot of people out there who have in PT school and in their current situation gotten away with just being organized. The people who are obsessive about being prepared, overly prepared, and thinking about what happens if this patient, number 1, comes in 10 minutes late, what am I going to do with that scenario? Will they take a little bit more on the subjective, so I'm going to extend that a little bit down, or I'm going to tighten that down a little bit. I'm going to get to their correctives a little quicker, or I'm going to leave 15 minutes for them to ask questions. So you're always stacking, what's patient 1, number 2, how's that transition going to be? So at the end of the day, that you've stuck to your times, you were efficient with your time. And the problem becomes, most physical therapists, you're givers. So you don't mind eating up your lunch. You don't mind eating up your evenings. Well, what's funny is you came into cash physical therapy because you were overworking in insurance. You can't say that. At some point, you have to be able to be strict with your time and being able to, give that to others, whether that's your partner or your kids or whatever it is, you have to be strict with your time. So in order to get to the point where you are a successful cash-based physical therapist, you really need to not just be organized like you were in PT school or maybe when you first came out of school, now to someone who is overly prepared, who knows exactly what's going to happen in the week. Now, what you can do is understand there's always going to be flexibility in there, but you have to prepare for that. So my personal routine is always on Saturday morning, I'll look at the schedule. Sunday morning, as anything changes, what did I miss? And then on Sunday night, I'm just kind of journaling down what are my top 3 priorities for every single day. And if I can get those top 3 priorities done, then everything else that's going to come in and cause a tornado or chaos is okay, because as long as I see these 3 things or these 3 patients or they get their programs, that's going to be the most important. So that's number 1. I think that sets you up for success. The second part is you have to have thick skin in cash base, and I say that because, very politely, if you have a hard time receiving feedback and you don't feel comfortable asking for feedback, or when you get feedback, you take it harsh, right? And I think you have to do that because you're in an industry now where patient feedback is so critical. Now, I'm not talking about insurance-based feedback. I'm talking about like real feedback. What if patient number 3 is going to leave you and they're going to self-discharge and you see them pushing away, they're not doing their homework, they're showing up late, they don't want to reschedule, you see them drifting. Being able to have that conversation right there and then and say, listen, I see you're late. I also see that you've canceled all of your appointments. I'm concerned about our relationship future going on to the next visits and being able to achieve your results and outcomes that you want. Can you share? Is there any challenges going on that we can address so that way you can get to the outcomes that you need? Being able to do that. And some people fear that feedback. You might be like, well, that's easy, Chris. Yeah, but you haven't done it yet. You're not asking for those feedback. You're not asking for things. And now that probably translates, to your partners and everything else. Maybe you're willing to do that with your partner, but you won't do it with patients. I don't understand what the difference is. They're both relationships. One is, romance, love, and everything else. And the other one is a financial relationship with them and being able to, help them achieve an outcome. I don't understand why that's so difficult. You would think it'd actually be harder to have it with a partner. And so in either case, I think you have to have thick skin because this industry is so tough. If you're not vulnerable, if you don't have that thick skin, you're not willing to get that feedback, you're not willing to push your own limits. And I think, I'll use the word soft. I think a lot of people become very soft because PT school and insurance-based industry and certain jobs have allowed that. And I think if you're not okay and you don't have that thick skin, you're not willing to provide the feedback to patients and then receive that feedback, I think you're going to be in trouble and you won't last, even if you're doing it as a side hustle 1 or 2 days a week or even grow into 5, you won't have a busy schedule for a long period of time and you'll always find yourself dabbling in cash-based physical therapy. You won't have a steady schedule and you always have, supplementing that with home health or travel work or whatever it is. So I think if you come prepared, you have that thick skin, I think that puts you in a really good scenario to be able to be successful. And number 3 is I think you have to be optimistic. I think that, people have asked me, I've grown to 3 clinics, 15 staff, and being cash-based for over 10 years now. And people have asked me, what has led to your success? I think that there is going to always be a challenge, whether that's COVID or employees or staff or, upset patients or, challenging things in your business. There will always be that. And I think that if you're a solopreneur right now and you are on your own, that's completely fine. Maybe you grow to a team or maybe you don't want to grow to a team. But there's always going to be challenges, whether you're a travel person and, you have a flat tire, your phone is not charged or nothing's going right that day, right? It's always, the world is just going to be crumbling on you. And that's okay because at the end of the day, look at the job you have. You get to help people and you can stay focused on that mission long term. But a lot of people who dabble in cash-based physical therapists as a physical therapy, they think that this is going to be the outlet. This is going to be the thing that's going to give them freedom. But when in reality, it's them internally that's not happy. And so this specialty is not going to give you the happiness that you're looking forward to. That's within you. And that's why I'm saying the person who's optimistic, who's naturally optimistic, who has grown to be optimistic is the one who's going to be successful because You've met those physical therapists who are, life always happens to them, right? It's always their car. It's always they forgot their lunch. It's always their partner. It's always their things, when in reality, that black cloud just hangs over them, because internally that's what they hold on to. That's who they are. And they are that black cloud. And so if you're that optimistic, ray of sunshine, you're going to do fantastic. So the person who's prepared, the person who has that thick skin, the one who is optimistic is going to succeed. So that's number 3. When you put those together, you can see the type of person that's going to succeed in this industry. So number 4 is the person who has grit, who has perseverance, because you will be knocked down multiple times. You will have patients who, when you adjust them, and now they're flared up, and you can't think, well, gosh, I can't ever flare this person up again. Now I have to look back and be introspective and figure out, okay, what went wrong in that scenario? What was wrong about the criteria to adjust that person at that time? Or was it that case, or whatever it was? All of these things are little intangible things that you have to be able to pick up on, are constantly thinking about what could I have done better. And so the one who perseveres past that, maybe you got kicked out of the gym that you were working in, maybe you're the home health agency that you were doing a side hustle with, they are no longer supporting your contract, or whatever it may be, or your lights were turned off, or your massage table broke. All of those things will happen to you. It's the person who is willing to go that next step and have that perseverance, because this is their passion and they're just following it. And that's different from being optimistic. Optimistic is the psychological positivity, and that's fantastic. The grit and perseverance is the action, and that's most important. But it all starts with optimism, and you have to be able to push past that. And so some people along this journey, they can't get it, right? They might blame it on the clinical skill. They might blame it on their neighborhood. They might blame it on the city that they're in. Oh, there's no good cash pay patients in here. I can't seem to do it. Nobody can do it. It's just my neighborhood. It's just my area. Or this gym sucked. I didn't like that gym. There was bad whatever, bad owner, bad whatever it is that you need to do. But ultimately, that's you. If you can't stay prepared, and you weren't prepared to know that, and you couldn't stay optimistic, and ultimately you couldn't push past that, you're in trouble. That's a personal challenge. And I think that's what happens all over the country and world. And if you're a physical therapist who is struggle with all 4 of these qualities, well, no wonder why you're not going to be successful in cash PT, or you're a student or new into this and you're like, gosh, I thought it would be just simply as, well, let me just bring clinical skill into my cash area. Well, that's different, because you were being spoon-fed by an insurance company and orthos and referrals and insurance companies. So you were just being spoon-fed. Now, you eat what you kill at this point. So the only thing that is going to get better is not your clinical skills, but your ability to manage yourself. And that's what coming with over-preparedness, having thick skin, being optimistic, and having that grit, that's an internal. These are internal qualities that you need to be able to develop. So those 4. And number 5 is you have to be creative. You have to be able to say, okay, well, great. I'm a low back specialist, but I'm not having any low back patients. And you go to a low back pain primary care, and they're not giving you people, or you go to a low back surgeon, and they're not feeding you anybody. And you're like, well, gosh, you just have to constantly be creative. You go to a gym, you go to a local sports club, and you're just trying to seek out. And the person who says, you know what, I am a back specialist, but maybe I need to expand. Maybe you need to expand your specialty and be less niche, or you're too general and you need to come in to be a little bit more of a specialist. All of these, I can't answer for you which one is the best for you, but I need to tell you right now, if you're not creative and you only want to hold on to that one dream you've had, you're not going to be successful. If you're so laser focused on being the successful human being that you planned 4 years ago, and you've been through ups and downs over the last 3 years, and you're trying to figure out, gosh, this is year number 4, but your bank account, but your success hasn't changed. It's time to reflect on that. And I think that there's a difference between persevering and just doing the repeated things that aren't working, or being creative and maybe coming back to that afterwards, and maybe expanding a little bit more in this direction, and maybe coming back afterwards as you get more of a patient load. And I think that that's natural for everyone, because I think you had this dream, and maybe you want to work with all athletes, and you had like 2 pro athletes on your schedule, and everyone else was general population. You just can't seem to get those pro athletes. I don't think that you obsess about that. I think you pivot, you be creative, and you adapt to the current environment, and then you figure it out as you come back. But if the one who is not creative will stick to that, and they will just fail, and they'll just say, cash wasn't for me, make up whatever excuse that you wanted to. I didn't like it anyways. There wasn't enough people in my neighborhood. Nobody wanted to pay, whatever it is. It's the economy. And I think that, over all these things, if you're not creative, there's no way you'll succeed. So you have to be prepared. You have to have thick skin. You have to be optimistic. You have to have grit, and you have to be creative. And the last one, you either have it or you don't, and that's people skills. And I think you can grow a portion of it, but people in your PT school or your class or even in your job they're just not people, and they should be researchers instead. And so if they're not a people pleaser, they're not a people person, that might not grow into it. And so they might be good clinically, and maybe they've done all the research, they've done all the CUs, they have all the credentials, and they're good technically. But the minute that you introduce them to somebody, their head's down, they can't, converse, and now you're going to bring them over to cash-based physical therapy, believe it or not, that cash patient isn't going to pay for their skills. They're going to pay for the energy. They're going to pay for their the environment, everything that person creates in that. And the reality is, if they do initial evaluation and never even get the chance to attempt the technical skill, there's no way that patient's ever going to book out a plan of care, because that PT didn't even get the chance to gain buy-in from that patient. And so I think you have to have a sound understanding of how people make decisions, what makes them tick, being able to see their body language, their eye contact, and really put on a show when they're working with patients. And if you struggle with that, and you're a student or you're a new grad and you struggle to be able to entertain clients or athletes or patients and make them feel welcome, and it's easy to talk to them. If you struggle with being able to talk to patients, create an environment, tell a joke, warm them up, and even the angriest person, if you struggle with that, none of the other 5 qualities matter, because cash-based physical therapy is about people skills, and your product, your technical skill is irrelevant when you come inside cash until you can get the people thing down first, because there's no way you can get someone to commit to 3, 7, 12 sessions if you don't understand what they want and what they need. So there you have it. I would say those are my top qualities that I think that if you don't have these, or you cannot develop these, cash-based physical therapy is not for you. So before you open another clinic, you hire another physical therapist, you try and gain another specialty, you try and move from one gym to another, you try and go from your car or mobile therapy into a brick and mortar, or you're a third year going into cash, or you're an insurance-based PT thinking about going into cash-based physical therapy. If you don't have these, I wouldn't even put the energy in. I'm gonna save you headaches, heartaches, maybe about $100,000 by just having you think about this. Why? Because there's people out there who want you to succeed. Your parents, your friends, your colleagues, everyone. Yeah, you should go be a cash-based physical therapist. But they haven't lived that. Whether that's even your parents telling you, your parents haven't lived as a cash-based physical therapist. They just know you're a good human with a lot of hard work and effort. You're going to achieve it. No, if you don't have these things, you better address them fast so that you're successful, because if not, those cheerleaders who were just telling you you're great are going to be wrong, and you need to solve that first. And now there's nothing wrong with them supporting you, but I will tell you it's a false sense of positivity. So those are the 6 qualities that you're going to need to enhance. Those are the ones that will be indicative of success for cash-based physical therapists, and I hope you continue to develop those. And if you're wondering, I need to think about, how do I develop those in a cash-based setting? And for me personally, I've been able to create this into a structured framework that I use to train and mentor hundreds of cash-based physical therapists. And if you're wondering, what's the next step for me? How do I work towards this? I created something called the Cash PT Clinical Elevation. It's an 8-week mentorship course that helps physical therapists just like yourself excel in cash-based physical therapy. Not just the clinical skill, but the framework, everything in it, from initial evaluation to follow-up sessions to plan of care to understanding body language to getting people to understand what you can do for them and understanding the person and the process. Everything involved to make your product look good. It's the bow around the entire thing. It's the packaging around your clinical skill. So if you're interested in that and you want to be able to develop yourself as a cash-based physical therapist, I highly recommend you attend. You can go to drchrisgarcia.com/elevation. If not, I will see you guys on the next episode. Take care. Hi, if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification for my weekly tips on treating cash pay patients, becoming that expert in your community, and thriving in business. Thanks, and I'll see you soon.